Yo, what's going on everybody? Kayanne here, back with another video. Today I'm going to teach you guys how to start making beats in FL Studio today. Let's just jump right into it. For those of you who want to make beats but don't even know how to start, the first thing you're going to need is a DAW. Now what a DAW is a digital audio workspace. In our case, we're going to be using FL Studio. Now the concepts that you're going to learn from my videos as well as other people's videos should be universal among all the different DAWs. If you have no idea which DAW to use, to make it as easy as possible, you should start with FL Studio. The reason being is because it is the most popular DAW on YouTube. So there's hundreds of tutorials for exactly what you need in this software. Now FL Studios does have a demo mode or a trial that you can try out just to get your feet wet, see if you really want to do this before you purchase it. But if you want the full version but you don't want to pay for it, obviously you could do some things. I'm not going to condone doing them, but you can do some things theoretically to get it for free. Now that you've downloaded and installed FL Studio, the first step is done. You're in your DAW, you have all the tools you need to start making music. You may be looking at all this and just be completely lost, which is perfectly understandable. I'm going to briefly go through everything that you need to understand about what you're looking at. Now when you first open FL Studio, you'll probably be greeted with something that looks like this. Well, let me just break down what all of this means. This window right here is the main bread and butter of everything you're going to be doing. Everything that you're going to be doing stems from this window that I'm moving around right now. This window is called the channel rack. This is where you're going to be importing all of your instruments, your drum sounds, and this is where you're going to be programming the notes and the MIDI for your beats. Now obviously mine looks a little different because I've customized it for my workflow, and you can always come back to this channel rack even if it goes away by pressing this button right here with the 6 squares or 6 rectangles. You tap that and it'll always open up for you. Now what I want you to do is press this plus button right here and it should open up a bunch of plugins for you to use. Now a plugin, it's a virtual instrument for you to use. FL Studio comes with its own plugins that you can use right out of the box. These are called stock VSTs. Now, I've been making beats for a long time and I've purchased my own plugins and instruments to use, but for the sake of this video, I'm just going to be using the stock ones. And if you bought the producer edition of FL Studio, you'll have one plugin that I'm going to be using called Citrus. Now, when you open Citrus, it'll look something like this with a piano right here. And if you click the piano, sounds will come out of it. And if you come over to this side right here with these 2 arrows, it'll be presets, and if you click on it, then you have a whole bunch of different presets that you can use for different sounds. So if you go to bell and maybe we press dream bell, then it'll go to the dream bell preset and the sound will be changed to that. Sounds pretty interesting. Now that we have our sound, we could just press X. It won't go anywhere. It'll still be here and we'll still be able to mess with it. And if you don't have a MIDI, up here, you can press this button, and what it'll do is it'll turn your keyboard into a piano of sorts. So if you press Q, it'll hit the note C on the piano. And if we hit random notes on the keyboard, we can pretend that we're playing a piano. Now, if you have a MIDI keyboard, you can plug it in and use that instead. Now, if you're starting making beats, you probably don't have that, so I'm not going to use my MIDI controller or my piano. I'm just going to stick with the stock. Now, the next step is we're going to program the MIDI. Now, I've been saying MIDI this entire time and you probably don't know what that means. A MIDI is the language that computers speak when it comes to music. The code of music for computers is MIDI, and it literally just looks like Lego blocks when you look at it from a visual standpoint. And the way you get to it is you want to right click your instrument, so in our case the dream bell, a drop down will come up and you just want to press piano roll and it'll take us to this interface right here. Another way to get to this interface is to click the second button. Now here is where we are going to be programming the MIDI. Essentially, we're going to tell our dream bell, this VST plugin, what notes it should be playing, and these numbers are pretty important. So C5 is the middle of the piano, so you want to find the C5. It'll be next to these 2 black notes and it'll sound like this for the dream bell. Now all we want to do is if we click, a little box pops up. Now this box is the MIDI. Now we can elongate it. This will just tell us how long we want that note to be. We can add more. Now if we put our notes in and we press play, it'll play out exactly what we put down. And it'll also loop it. So after it gets here, it'll just go back to the beginning and just keep looping it over and over and over and over again. And we can just keep continuing this. It'll just be one long MIDI sequence. We press the left click to place, right click to take away. Now your task is to find what the pattern is. Now I'm just going to make some random pattern. We're probably going to be making trap or something. So I'm going to go ahead and program the MIDI and then come back. Now I've programmed my MIDI. I'm just going to briefly go through how I did it. Basically, you want to use your ears. You just want to place a random note and then just figure out where it goes. So boom, and then I just wanted to go down. So the instrument that you use as well as the MIDI that you program is going to greatly change what type of music you're making. So if you use like really luscious pads and you have really long MIDI notes, then you might be headed towards something more dreamy or something more R&B. So obviously with this instrument that we're using, it's just like a pluck, something you would hear in a Travis record. So I went for something like that. Now obviously if you want more information on making R&B stuff, if you're a singer, or if you just want to, if you like that type of music, if you want to make trap, you want to make boom bap, there's hundreds of videos online for you to learn how to make that type of music. Sometimes you don't even need to know music theory. You just have to be able to use your ears and you'll be able to make whatever you want. And we come back and we can see our MIDI right here. We can go ahead and add another instrument. So we'll press the plus again. We can use citrus again because I know you should have it. We'll go to pads. We'll see what kind of pads they got in here. We can try amylase. I don't know what this sounds like. Sounds pretty cool. We can use this. Now again, right click, piano roll. And the cool thing about FL Studio is we can see the notes that we had used already for the dream. So we can really just layer on top what we had. If you held control and press the up arrow, then it'll pitch it up an octave. And that adds a little something in the back end, makes it a little more dark. And also when it comes to drums, you want to keep everything in that C again, and you just put it in exactly how we put in the instruments. Then you can make cool patterns like this. Now in the channel rack, on the left side, I'll explain what these things do. Now, this green button just tells you if the sound is enabled or not. So if I click on it, then it'll turn off. And if you press play, you won't hear it. But if I click it again, it'll turn on. And if I press play, perfect. On the right of that, the first knob that we're going to be seeing is called panning. Now what panning is basically it's moving the sound that's coming to the left or to the right. We change the volume. So this is the first aspect of mixing that you're going to see. So we don't really want it that loud, so we're going to keep it lower. There is fine. This is a perfect volume for that, so we're not going to mess with that. This box right here is for the mixing aspect, and that is the fourth box on this list. On this row, the fourth box will take us to the mixer. Now the mixer is really important because this is where we're going to be applying effects. This is where we're going to be adjusting the volume as well as adding effects to our samples, to our instruments, to our vocals, everything like that will come into this screen right here. Now my screen looks a little different because it has colors and stuff. It's really extra and only for my workflow. It's a template that I had made, but it should still be the same. It should still insert 1, 2, 3 all the way down. So what you want to do is the dream bell, if we hold the left click and put up, then it'll be on 1. What this means is this dream bell is now routed to mixer 1. We could scroll through it and it'll highlight it for us. If we keep it on, I'll put it on 26 because that's just how I have it set up. On this one, we'll put it on 27. And if we play it, we can see that the volume is coming into our mixers. Now from here, same thing, we can get this off. We can turn this one off and it'll only be the pluck. Or if we turn that one on, it'll only be the pad. This is the volume. So here we can adjust the volume. If we put this down, this one will be the panning again. We could pan it all the way to the right. Now these ones are out of the scope of this video. They're really extra and for people that kind of know what they're doing, but you can play around with them though. It'll give you some cool effects. Now from here, you'll notice on the right side that we have slots. Now what these slots do is they add effects. So if you click on it, another pop-up will come that have effects that you can use. We're going to be using what's known as reverb. Now reverb looks like this. What reverb is basically if you've ever been in a hall or a room with a really large ceiling and you sing, it sounds really good because you can hear yourself like delayed. That's what reverb is. It's basically emulating a room and making your voice sound really wet. So for example, I put some reverb on my voice. So this is what a voice is with reverb. With the reverb off, it sounds dry. With it on, it sounds really wet and there's a lot of delay on it and stuff like that. Now, for our instruments, that's really, really crucial, and we want that because it adds a little extra spice. Our reverbs and delays are going to be very important. Now, another cool thing is gross beat. Now, gross beat is really cool because it adds little like stutters and stuff. So if I play it with this, let's just say complex one so you can really hear it, and I play it, or if I go on half speed, then it'll sound in half speed. There's also gates in this plugin, so you could do a quarter gate. So these plugins are really cool. You can do a lot of creative things with them, and you could turn something really basic into something really incredible just by using the effects you have. Utilizing your delays and reverbs is really important. Now, the final place that we're going to be is called the playlist. Now, it's the first block, and this is where all the arrangement of the beat is going to happen. This is where the beat is going to be made. You have all the bones in the channel rack. You've mixed everything, so everything sounds good together. Now it's time to put everything in its place. Now, to demonstrate the playlist, I'm going to open up a beat that I have already made, and I'm just going to go through everything. I'm going to go through all of these 4 things again in the beat that I have already made. Now, similar to the MIDI, the playlist is exactly like building blocks. It's literally Legos. We take what we made in the channel rack and the piano roll, and we just put it in its place. Now, briefly, I'm going to go over the channel rack, the piano view, and the mixer for this particular beat. This is the instruments that I use. This is the first bass. This is the main sound. This is the pluck. This is another pluck that I used. This is a synth. Another synth. A bass. And a lead. This is also where you drag your drums in. So from the left side, you'll just drag your drums in, or if you have a folder open, you can just drag it in. This is the hat, open hat, 808, clap, kick, and some effects. Now for this instrument right here, you can see that I have it panned to the left a little bit. I have the volume reduced a little bit. It's routed to the 29th channel on my mixer. And if we go to the channel rack, we can see the MIDI that I used. If I press pattern up here, it'll play the specific pattern. This is what it sounds like. Now these MIDI notes that are layered on top of each other, they're called chords, and I got you covered. I've made like 4 or 5 videos on chords and R&B chord progressions that you can definitely go check out. Now obviously with the other instruments, there's other chords. So if we go to this one, it's up here. If we go to the Wurlitzer, it's like this. If we press pattern, sounds like a hot mess. But the important part is that we have everything routed to channels, and in the channels we have the volumes mixed so everything sounds level with each other, and we have effects on all of these plugins to make it sound the way it sounds. So if we go to the main sound and turn off all the plugins, it sounds like this. Now this is a reverb. You can use the Fruity reverb if you like. This is what it sounds like on and off. Again, we can hear that the sound gets more life to it. It doesn't sound as dry. And we can also add a compressor. Now what a compressor does is it basically just squishes the sound to make it more even volume wise. We turn that on, and that's how we got that sound. Now all of these have their own special mixing going on to them, and you only get that really by just experimenting and using your ears and what you wish to hear, basically. But now back to the playlist. So if I go to a new arrangement, this is what it would look like for you. This is where all your instruments that you painstakingly took to make the MIDI for, you can just drag it in, and it's literally just a block. This is what you're going to hear when you make the song. So you take it on song mode and you press play. Now this is where you just add things. Do this one. Are you starting to understand what I'm going with this? You take your hi-hats, put it in here. Now, if this was the song and you press file and you export it like this, then this is all they're gonna hear. They're gonna hear your instruments, and then they're just gonna hear hi-hats for the rest. So this is where you want to drag all the instruments that you made all together, and then you really just make the sound. You make the song. So right now this beat is 30 seconds. You can tell from up here. You just want to keep arranging the beat to how you want it to sound like. And that's exactly what I did here. So if I mute everything and just play this, we can play everything and you can hear how the beat was really made. You can see exactly where I put certain things, how I did certain things. I put my tag right here. This is what it sounds like. Now, if you noticed through there, you can visually see it that some instruments came in. So if we just play the instruments without any of the drums, it was that. And then when we got to the start of the 9th bar, and then halfway through that bar, we changed it again because we changed the lead. We also had a change in bass. So we had this really creamy bass, and then we changed it to an 808. So it's really just things like that that will really make your beats that you're going to start making come alive and really sound different and unique and sound interesting. And I'm telling you, you can make beats like this also. This isn't something that takes a really long time to do. If you put a couple hours into it every day, you'll get here eventually. When it comes to drums, I myself, I'm going to put out a drum pack soon. I'm currently making it right now. I'm in the process of making it right now. But in the meantime, what you can do is you can go to Reddit. There's a subreddit dedicated to drum kits. You can go there, download drum kits that people are using, and in there will be some decent drum that you can use in your beats. The real secret to making really good beats is to make music that you like. Don't make certain beats because other people like them. Make music that you like. So just start making music no matter how hard it is at the beginning. Just don't stop. Just keep making it over and over and over and over again, and eventually you'll start getting good at it. Just experiment. You don't have to really spend any money. Just experiment with the sound, experiment what you like using, and just mess around. Like open Citrus and just mess around with all the knobs, and just to get a feel for what you're doing. And just, you really just want to understand these 4 buttons to navigate, and you should be perfectly fine. If you come up to the upper left side and press file, you can open a new template. You can save this project file. If you go to export, then you can turn this project file into an actual WAV or MP3 that you can send out to your friends or post online. With that being said, I hope this video has helped you in learning how to start making music. If you have any more questions, I reply to all my comments. You can just post your questions in the comments and I will 100% answer your question in the comments, or you can send me an email, or you could shoot me a DM on Instagram. All that is in the description. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to subscribe, like, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.